my weekly installment. I come down every week to point out some spending of taxpayer dollars that perhaps, not only perhaps, we should absolutely save, because the cost to the taxpayer, as I'll point out shortly here, is in the tens of billions, if not hundreds of billions of dollars on programs that have already been identified by government agencies as worthless, fraud, unnecessary, and waste. And while we've been unable, and the senator from Tennessee was a very pivotal part of this effort, unable to come to an agreement on dealing with a larger issue and saving our country from insolvency down the line, at the very least we can do is point out those areas where we're spending money that absolutely doesn't need to be spent and can be returned back to the taxpayer. This week's waste of the week is such that I can't keep from chuckling over how this could happen, but it happens. You know, everybody's heard about Ponce de Leon's search for the fountain of youth, and obviously that hasn't happened. But apparently the Social Security agency must have found out that several individuals, in fact 6.5 million Americans, somehow are still on the rolls of people over 112 years old. There are 6.5 million still on the Social Security rolls. How can this happen? Well, it happens because in 1936, when the program started, there were some people, even in the mid-1800s, that were enrolled in Social Security, and they've never been taken off the rolls. Now, obviously, these people are not all receiving checks, but it opens up the prospect for fraud and waste and people getting these numbers, using them, and then receiving Social Security benefits not legally. Now, the Inspector General's report states, and I quote, number holders who exceed maximum reasonable life expectancies fall in this category, and they were likely deceased. Well, to put it mildly, if we have 6.5 million people in America that are over the age of 112, my guess is that most of those people, if not all those people, are deceased, not likely deceased, but deceased. Of those 6.5 million, the Social Security Inspector General has determined that nearly 3,900 numbers were run through the U.S. government's E-Verify system for people more than a century old. And the E-Verify system is used when someone applies for a job. So that means thousands of people over 100 years old are applying for these new jobs. Obviously, someone is fraudulently managing the system here to report a Social Security number for someone over 112 years of age that is in the E-Verify system as applying for a job. Auditors also discovered that nearly 67,000 Social Security numbers in recent years were used to report wages for people other than the cardholders themselves. The workers reported about $3 billion in earnings between 2006 and 2011, and then those earnings are used to calculate their Social Security benefits. Obviously, this is something that needs to be addressed. Auditors have proposed that the Social Security Administration take action to correct the death records, but the Social Security Administration says it doesn't want to divert resources away from efforts to improve payment accuracy. So my suggestion is Social Security might want to reassess their assessment. A gaping hole like this undermines the confidence of the American people in our government, in the way we run this business of government, in the Social Security Administration and the federal government at large. We have estimated, and government agencies have estimated, that the Social Security Administration can reduce fraud and save at least $2 billion, likely more, if this problem is corrected. So as I do each week, we keep adding to our gauge here of savings that now are approaching very close to $50 billion just over several weeks of pointing out waste and fraud that has been documented by non-political, neutral federal agencies. And we keep adding more, and we're approaching 50 billion. Our goal is 100 billion. I think we'll go way past that if I keep doing this every week. In order to correct or help correct the problem, I've introduced legislation with Senator Carper and others which will update the Social Security system and ensure accuracy in federal records. Not just in Social Security, but in other agencies as well. I'm just looking at one agency here. Wait till we get into some of the others. Key provisions of our bill include allowing federal agencies access to the complete death database, because under current law, only agencies that directly handle beneficiary payments may have access to the complete database. The Act allows all appropriate federal agencies to have access to the complete death data program for integrity purposes, as well as for other needs such as public safety and health. It requires the use of the death data to curb improper payments and finally improving data about dying. Our legislation establishes procedures to ensure more accurate death data. As I've said before, by simply correcting the death records, the Social Security Administration can reduce fraud and save at least $2 billion. This is an area that is ripe for reform, and I urge my colleagues to support this legislation and eliminate this waste, along with the other $49 billion that we have identified here in just the last few weeks. We'll be doing the taxpayer of America a great service, making our government efficient, effective government that it needs to be, particularly in these times of lack of fiscal discipline.